Shalom and welcome to the White Rose Family Channel. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I'm compelled to present before an awakening set-apart nation. To individuals who are drawn by the Almighty Creator, the Almighty Father Yahuah, who is the beginning and the end, who is light, who is a consuming fire, who is the Almighty One, who draws us to those who are drawn by him are drawn to Yahusha, which is his word. How can we communicate with one so great and magnificent except by his word? And his word is acknowledged by the name Yahusha. No one can come unto the Father except by Yahusha Mashiach, which basically is saying Yahusha the Messiah. Yahusha is the word of Yahuah. And I'm referencing John 6:44 for those of you who want to know where did I get that from. In due season in these last days, it will become clear that Yahusha is the word of Yahuah, and that Yahuah sent his set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name for us to acknowledge the continuity of his plan for redemption for his children. I want to take a moment, my brothers and sisters, to say this before I get any further into this message. The views expressed in these words and these messages do not necessarily reflect the views of the owners, managers, shareholders, and or sponsors of this media platform. With that said, let's get started, my brothers and sisters. If you're looking at this, I want to take a moment for you to see what I have pictured on this slide, this first slide. If you're listening, I would invite you to visit White Rose Family Channel, the YouTube channel, where you can see this slide. And I say that because I am simultaneously recording this for my podcast, End Time Lens, which will present the audio to this message. But if you're watching, you'll see that I have White Rose Family. Whoever given thought to why I say White Rose Family? Go to Revelation 7 chapter and you will see reference to white robes, those dressed in white robes in the final days. This is what inspired and compelled me to say White Rose Family, those drawn by the Almighty Father to Yahusha. It consists of Hebrews and Gentiles made one by Yahusha, made one by the word of Yahuah. Many people think that the Almighty Father created humanity only to say, I'm going to save those who are known as Hebrew Israelites. There will be sojourners. There will be those of other nationalities who are made one. They don't become Hebrew. They become Yashar'al as a nation under the banner of Yashar'al. And this will become clear in the coming days ahead. You will also see where I say on this slide, where I indicate the final Exodus countdown 2023. I'm compelled to believe that is so, my brothers and sisters. Over 40 years ago, I had a dream of the messengers of Yahuah calling out the planets to line up. And they created a brilliant light and they sung a magnificent song. And I didn't know what that meant till years later. I also had a dream of Yashar'al coming together. It was a time when I received the name Symmanayah, which I believe the Almighty Father gave me. That and some other mitigating, other circumstances and influences confirmed and brought me to the point where I said the final Exodus countdown 2023. It is projected that there will be what is called a great conjunction in the month known as December, around December 21, 2023. I want to encourage you to research Great Conjunction in a NASA article. And you will see reference to 1623, my brothers and sisters. And in that reference of 1623, it is believed that in 2023, a magnificent great conjunction will occur. It is believed that when the Mashiach, when Yahusha was born, when the word of Yahuah was manifest in the flesh, that there was a great conjunction, a brilliant star that led the wise ones to the cradle of the birth of Yahusha. And I believe by December 21 of 2023, that great conjunction will mark the beginning of deliverance for Yashar'al in a way in which the world will take notice. I believe, my brothers and sisters, wholeheartedly. Now I ask you, some are quick to say he's a false prophet. Some are quick to say, I'm going to take it safe. I ain't set no dates. Yashar'al, it is written that without belief, it's impossible to please the Almighty Father. It is written that belief is the substance of things expected and not seen. Where do demonstration of our belief come? What are the elements that bring about belief? I can go on and on and on and on. With each passing day, the Almighty Father had demonstrated to me what an endless flowing stream of water His word is like. So I'm compelled to believe from the four corners of the earth, the restrainer will gather. It mentions that the anti-Messiah cannot take full control until the restrainer is removed. Many believe that that's a rapture. That's not so. The restrainer being removed is the gathering of Yashar'al from the four corners of the earth. And you see that indication, notation on this slide. You also see 144,000 in great multitude. As I mentioned in the 7th chapter of Revelation, it speaks of such. The scriptures bear witness to the words I present to you. Search and discern the life in them. It is said in the scriptures that Yahuah is indeed a consuming fire, and that He will discipline those whom He loves, as it states in Revelation 3:19, and as it states in the 12th chapter of Hebrews. I ask you, my brothers and sisters, in the coming days ahead, will we be refined or consumed? What position will you take? Who's filling your glass with the words from the living Father that comes to us in Yahusha's name? Who's worshiping and obeying Him and contributing to the lifting up of the word of Yahuah, which is Yahusha, and witnessing Him drawing all men to Himself? That's the intersection. That's the focal point, my brothers and sisters, as it states in John 12:32, where Yahusha is quoted as saying, if He be lifted up, He'll draw all men to Himself. He'll draw men to Himself, which is the word of Yahuah. And He will remove obstacles. Just as we saw in times past, there have been famine, pestilence, disease. There have been sinkholes. There have been floods. There have been fire out of the sky. The Almighty Father removes as He see fit, when He see fit. He removes obstacles. And we will witness such occur in the days ahead, my brothers and sisters. There are three major promises that the Almighty Father promised us that I believe it is important in these final days. That's discipline, vengeance, and wrath. Do you honestly believe end times will come to a halt without Him fulfilling the promise that He disciplined those whom He loved? Do you honestly think it's going to come to a halt when He said vengeance is mine, to give us the opportunity to witness Him fulfill what He promised? And wrath, when it talks about the wrath of Yahuah, let us get in the right frame of mind and perception. Many of us think we will be all in a safe location, that we will be all moved to that safe location, to the promised land for the final exodus. No, there will be some martyrs for Yahusha's name. There will be some led astray because of unbelief, because they are on milk, because they are blinded for their own reasons. And there will be those sheltering in place to give the final words to those around them, letting them know that this is all the plan of Yahuah unfolding. Some of you might say, well, there's a scripture that says all. He's going to get all, that no one is left behind. Keep in mind, my brothers and sisters, there are people that have died already. There are people that will die before the physical return of Yahusha. Keep in mind that the scriptures tell us that when we physically die, we go into the bosom of Abraham. So those that die physically, that are children, set apart children of you who will go to the bosom of Abraham, go to that place of rest until resurrection day. And some of us will fit that description in these final days. And you might say, well, where does the scripture say he's going to shelter in place? Are we not aware that the scriptures say he reigned on the just and the unjust? So as vengeance and wrath well up, don't think he's going to stop and hold everything back just for you or just for me. We must understand balance in the scriptures, my brothers and sisters, and know what is expected in the days ahead. With that said, let me continue. I want to mention, my brothers and sisters, in times past, I've had various playlists, different topics, and I numbered them. We are approaching the last stretch, a time when some things that must occur and will occur, a time where I know and believe wholeheartedly that the majority of people that listen to things I post, they don't follow the sequence, the numbers, the playlist, 100%. I was compelled to do that as a way of mapping, pointing people back to what they heard. Like someone say, I heard that. Oh, that was number 3, or it was this time and that time. So I will, as of now, my intent is not to do playlists. So each post will be a post for that date. And I will name it End Times, and I'll put that date on there. The subject matter and the message and the words that will come forth, it's up to you to listen. If you believe you are drawn by the Almighty Father, it's up to you to listen and seek to discern whether there's life in them. So new posting changes is no more playlists. And the post will not always be titled. But I will bring attention, the attention that's necessary for the 144,000 in great multitude, for those of the final exodus and those that will be ordered to do various other things to complete the fulfillment of what is promised by the Almighty Father. I will continue to bring attention to the need for us to be refined or face being consumed. I will continue to bring attention to discipline, vengeance, and wrath. With that said, let me continue. My brothers and sisters, end times, ready or not, prophecies will and are being fulfilled. It is time for us to look at how we govern ourselves with each passing moment. It is time for us to understand how to vet and examine what is of Yahuah and what is not. It is time, oh Yashar'al, for us to spend time embracing correction and maturity and wisdom. For it's so much work and so much to learn, so much to get, so much to receive, so much to give out, that it's time for us to stop wasting the second, a minute, arguing, trying to preserve an ego or what we've always been taught or old traditions that are erroneous. Great corrections are coming, O Yashar'al. And those who will be physically alive will witness the greatest corrections that will surprise many of us regarding when the day began, how to guard and honor Shabbat, how to dress, how to communicate with one another, identifying all the tenets of nation building. Corrections are coming. My brothers and sisters, hear me out. Hear me out. Water, food, and refuge will become priorities. They have already become priorities to those who have already been displaced. But as Yashar'al witnessed, the world's attention focused on the leadership of Yashar'al to gather them together. These priorities will be magnified. The need to focus is now. You see, the wicked ones those who are forging a world government, a one world government, or a new world order, they know that he who controls the water and food and refuge, there are those that would be willing to worship them and follow them. But there is a restrainer that puts their wickedness to a limit, and that is the set apart children of Yashar'al that have been chosen to fulfill the final exodus. Pray and watch. Yashar'al, there's some important things I'm going to go through on here, and I want you to be patient and listen to this whole segment. If ever I ask you to listen to anything regarding the final exodus, hear these words, for there are some factors I will bring out that are of grave importance. Let me continue. Consider these words, Yashar'al. Remember I said food, water, shelter, refuge. Consider these words. Come with me, my brother, my sister, and listen carefully to Genesis 47, chapter 47, verses 13 to 17. Listen carefully, my brothers and sisters. Genesis 47, 13 through 17. It said, now there was no bread in all the land, because of the scarcity of food was very severe. And the land of Mitzrayim and all the land of Canaan became exhausted from the scarcity of food. And Joseph gathered up all the silver that was found in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan, for the grain which they bought. And Joseph brought the silver into Pharaoh's house. And when the silver was all spent in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan, all the Mitzrayites came to Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the silver is gone. And Joseph said, give your livestock, and I give you bread for your livestock if the silver is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph. And Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses, and for the flocks they owned, and for the herds they owned, and for the donkeys. Thus he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. Keep in mind, my brothers and sisters, the gold was exhausted. The silver was exhausted. So then they started giving up their livestock for bread to live. Bear with me, my brothers and sisters. We're going to continue on in the same chapter. Let's go to the 18th verse through the 21st verse. Listen carefully, O Yashar'al. And when that year had ended, they came to him the next year and said to him, we do not hide from my master that our silver is all spent, and my master also has the livestock we own. There has not been left any before my master, but our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread. Let us and our land be servants of Pharaoh, and give us seed, and let us live and not die, and let the land not lie waste. I want to pause for a minute, my brothers and sisters. The scriptures tell us that in the last days there will be famine and pestilence and disease. The scriptures indicate that there will be shortages of food. He who controls the food to the non-discerning will become one that is worshipped, who will take into servitude those who worship him. Severe times are coming. What we saw in times past, we'll see something that resembles it in the days ahead. And I say to you, O Yashar'al, the world leaders know if they control the food. They're doing everything they can to manipulate the food with additives, control the food's growth. They're doing all that they can. Now keep in mind, the scripture says that wickedness is at work, that lawlessness will rise up. There will be wars and rumors of wars, nations against nation. The scriptures tell us that there will be those in our household who will betray us. Some of the reasons we'll be betrayed is because of food and water. Rise up, O Yashar'al. The scriptures tell us he who seeks to gain his life will lose it, but he who loses his life for the sake of the word of Yahuwah, for Yahusha's sake, shall gain it. They shall identify that it is the inward man that lives forever, that these earthen vessels will go back to the ground of which they came. My brothers and sisters, know how to make wise decisions. Know how to discern what is true. Know how to grow in discerning the ways of Yahuwah. For there are people that speak of one thing and they speak of another, and sometimes they are walking contradictions and don't even realize it. There are those who bear false witness against one another and don't realize that they're doing it. When we see brothers and sisters come together and there is something wrong, then someone is bearing false witness. And then there are those who say, we're in the same boat. Let every man be a liar and Yahuwah be true. And they quote that scripture often. But the question is, can we discern that the Almighty Father and believe and trust that he will bring discipline? So he will prove who's right. And sometimes that's done through the one that he has chosen and made the scripture alive to bring correction. So don't fall for the thing of, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Let every man be a liar, for someone that don't understand what that scripture is saying. It's saying if we're using our intellect, our brain, our comprehension factors, then we will risk becoming liars. But if we lean on the spirit of the Almighty Father Yahuwah that comes to us in Yahusha's name, truth will well up and rise up with proof and with power. And we will witness such things occur in the coming days ahead, my brothers and sisters. Make no mistake, there's a lot of work. A lot of work. And the time we spend in holding on to egos or holding on to tradition or erroneous teachings and practices because everyone else is doing it will come to an end. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. Choose wisely. Let me continue. O Yashar'al, hear these words. There will be a rise in true set-apart guidance. Consider the words in Matthew 24, 9 through 13. It says, then they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you, and you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many shall stumble. They shall deliver up one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. And because of the increase in lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. But he who shall have endured to the end shall be saved. You ever ask yourself, why would your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, the person that you fellowship with, why would they give you up? We saw where the lack of food and water can make one want to worship the person who holds the food and water. You see, there are desperate times that will rise up and cause people to do desperate things. If we understand what's going on, we will gird up and seek earnestly to discern how to navigate through such conditions, my brothers and sisters. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al. How many of you are hearing people telling you what to do during these end times? There's a lot about history proving that we Yashar'al. It's a lot about where's the true Jerusalem or where's the promised land. It's a lot about things that are behind our back opposed to discerning what the Almighty Father is saying now and pressing forward. Scriptures even tell us to focus forward. Proverbs 4th chapter ends with saying, focus forward. Let the Spirit of Yahuwah bring us to establish our footsteps, to come away from evil. How many people are saying what must be done? I'm saying what needs to be done is discerning the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha, working in us, through us, discerning the life in the scriptures, identifying those who are truly reflecting the ways of Yahuwah, providing living instructions that line up with what the Almighty Father has presented in times past, now, and talking about the future. My brothers and sisters, the final Exodus, a time when 144,000 in great multitude will begin to gather and move to the promised land. I want to read something to you, my brothers and sisters, for I believe that our patriarch, Yaakov, whose name was changed to Yashar'al, prophesied of the conditions and characteristics of the 12 tribes mentioned in the 7th chapter of Revelation. I believe he prophesied some things that will occur during the time his children were alive and during these end times. And I will present scriptures to you to what make me believe that. So I want to start first by saying, let's visit Genesis 48th chapter. Examine what I believe a prophecy fulfilled regarding Ephraim and Manasseh. You will discover, my brothers and sisters, listen carefully as I will mention to you how these are prophecies that are being fulfilled. Genesis 48th chapter, verse 12 through 22, I will read it. If you're looking at the screen, the letters are small. If you have the technology to magnify, I invite you to do so. If not, I invite you to open your scripture to the 48th chapter of Genesis, verse 12 through 22. Hear me, O Yashar'al, for it is important for the final Exodus, for the gathering of the children of Yahuah. Starting with the 12th verse. So Joseph brought them from between his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth, talking about his sons. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand towards Yashar'al's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand towards Yashar'al's right hand, and brought them near him. And Yashar'al, now this is Yaakov, commonly known as Jacob, when his name was changed. Yashar'al stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, consciously directing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, the Almighty One before whom my father Abraham and Isaac walked, the Almighty One who has fed me all my life, long to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the youth. Notice he's saying, bless the youth. You see, my brothers and sisters, this is consistent when the scriptures talk about the first should be last and the last should be first. The youth were last, but here they're the first to be blessed as it relates to the final Exodus, as it relates to the final days. And I'll explain as I continue. But he blessed the youth. He said, let my name be called upon them in the name of my fathers Abraham, Isaac, and let them increase to a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father had laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it was evil in his eyes. And he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from the head of Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. And Joseph said to his father, not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. Now let me pause for a minute. How many people have heard teachers and mores, influencers, let you know that Joseph made a big mistake? He disrespected his father, called himself correcting his father. I believe he thought he was correcting his father because his father was dying. If you read the scripture, you'll see these were during the last days of Yashar'al. So he thought his father was losing wisdom, didn't know what he was doing, trying to correct him on telling him who to bless first. But hear what happened as I continue with the 19th through the 22nd verse. But his father refused and said, I know my son. In other words, he said, I know what I'm doing. I know he also becomes a people, and he also is great, and yet his younger brother is greater than he, and his seed is to become the completion of the nations. And he blessed them on that day, saying, in you, Yashar'al shall bless, saying, the Almighty One make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. And Yashar'al said to Joseph, see, I am dying, but the Almighty One shall be with you and bring you back to the land of your fathers. And I have given to you one portion above your brothers, which I took from the hand of the Amorites with my sword and with my bow. A prophecy. If you search out Ephraim, my brothers and sisters, for many years, Ephraim has been the one they talk about. Both whites and blacks, Hebrews and Gentiles, even among those who are outside of the family of Yashar'al under the guise of other religions, have magnified Ephraim more than anything. But note this, if you go to the 7th chapter of Revelation, Ephraim isn't mentioned. The scriptures are hundreds of years old, derived from the original scriptures. We have these different translations. But nowhere in these final days in the 7th chapter of Revelation is Ephraim mentioned. Now I'm saying that to say, so for hundreds of years, Manasseh has been mentioned in Revelation's 7th chapter. So Ephraim was talked about and is talked about even to this day, more so than Manasseh. Remember, Yaakov say, Ephraim be great, but Manasseh should be great also. I submit to you, Manasseh's greatness comes with the banner representing one of the 12 tribes of Yashar'al, which is written in the 7th chapter of Revelation. Stay with me, brothers and sisters. A prophecy spoken, a prophecy occurring. Let's also visit Genesis 49, the 49th chapter. Look for the characteristics in Yashar'al today. I submit to you, O Yashar'al, many people will talk about 144,000, but it takes belief to discern what would be the characteristic. Just to say 144,000, what are they doing? What are their characteristics? Some will say, I'm not going to worry about that till I see it. Do you not think that throughout the scriptures, the Almighty Father wants us to understand and know what his plan is for his children? Come with me to the 49th chapter of Genesis. I'm going to start by reading verses 1 through 15. I'll give you a moment because I know the text is small if you're looking at the screen. If you have the technology to magnify and read along with me, or open your passage of scripture and read along with me. The 49th chapter. It says, and Jacob called his sons and said, gather together, so that I declare to you what is to befall you in the last days. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, the 12 tribes of Yashar'al in Revelation 7th chapter. 144,000 will reflect characteristics of the literal sons of Yaakov and his grandsons. He says, gather together. Do we think the final exodus is a gathering together? He's saying, hear you sons of Yaakov, listen to Yashar'al, your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my power, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of exaltation and the excellency of power. I submit to you, Reuben was the beginning of Yashar'al's strength because he produced. That's his first son. You ever see an individual witness the birth or come around his first son and feel like, oh, I'm a man now, I can produce children? There's a certain degree of strength and power come when you can father a child. And this is what Yashar'al is saying to Reuben. You're my power, the beginning of my strength, the excellency of exaltation. But he said, boiling like water, you do not excel because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. You see what happens, my brothers and sisters. Because Reuben was the firstborn, he was overconfident, overzealous, thinking he can do whatever he wanted to do, since he was the power that his father professed. But I say to you, O Yashar'al, we are witnessing the characteristics of Reuben today. There are a lot of people who have come into the awakening years before others. And so what they do is they say, I've been talking about this for years. I've been talking about this for years. They have the Reuben syndrome. And for that reason, they think they should be leading. Because they brought about the awakening long before any others. That's the Reuben syndrome. We don't disregard them because there has to be beginnings. He goes on to say, boiling like water. You do not excel because you went up to your father's house, father's bed, and you defiled it, went up to his couch. But Reuben still has his place. He was the beginning, the firstborn of Yashar'al. And we will see in 144,000, 12,000 individuals who will speak how they were awakened first, how they have the power because they were first. And they will get upset with people who just came into the knowledge. But we will understand we must not ignore that they came into it first. And Shimon and Louis are brothers. Their weapons are implements of violence. My brothers and sisters, implements of violence. What is violence? Violence is the action that takes place to rid a person of the things that's trying to attack it or tear it down or destroy it. Violence is the action that rips apart and bring to naught the things that should be. So Shimon and Louis, yes, we know Louis became the priesthood. But to have violence, to rip things apart, shows courage, but it also requires discernment in knowing what to rip apart, what to come away from, what to purge. I would submit to you, among the 144,000, there will be 12,000 from Shimon and Louis who will exhibit courage, not afraid to fight, not afraid to stand up for the orders that are given by the Almighty Father. Let me continue. Let my being not enter their council. Let any esteem not be united to their assembly, because they killed a man in their displeasure, and they lamed an ox in pleasure. Here, Yashar'al is saying they should be careful when demonstrating violence. They should learn a lesson, lest they be removed out the way. So Shimon and Louis, the characteristics of Shimon and Louis will come in 12,000 of each of the 12 tribes of Yashar'al. We will see these characteristics. Look around, my brothers and sisters. You might be surprised of what's unfolding. The 7th verse, I'm in the 49th chapter still. It says, curse their displeasure, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. Divide them in Yaakov and scatter them Yashar'al. This is basically identifying that you can do something, and if you're overzealous, you can overstep your bounds, and it comes with consequences. So let us learn what Yaakov is saying. And keep in mind, he got these sons together. Will not the final exodus be the 12 tribes of Yashar'al in great multitude coming together? So that he did not have one son saying, well, he told me this, well, he told me that. They all heard what their father had to say on the matter. 8th verse. You, Yehuda, your brother praise you. Your hand is on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children bow down before you. Yehuda is a lion's club. From the prey you have gone up, my son. He bowed down, he crouched like a lion. And like a lion, who does rouse him? Who does rouse him? Yehuda, my brothers and sisters. His hand on the neck of the enemies. How many people understand what's the purpose of a neck? Pause for a minute, O Yashar'al, and ask yourself, what is the function of the neck? 1, it connects the head. 2, the airways in which we breathe flow through our neck. 3, the tube in which we eat food and consume food for nourishment goes through our neck. Yehuda is one who will cut off the person who's trying to spew wickedness. When people say, you cut me off, you cut me off. The characteristics of Yehuda will not be a quid pro quo. We will witness as Yashar'al rise up. Yehuda is given the lead. Why? Because he knows when to cut things off and when to let things flow. And he will earn the respect of his brethren. Yehuda is a lion's club. From the prey you have gone up, my son. He bowed down, he crouched like a lion. And like a lion, who does muse him? Now here's something to hear, O Yashar'al. The scepter should not turn aside from Yehuda, nor an inscriber from between his feet, and until Shiloh comes, and to him who is the obedience of peoples. The scepter. There are those outside the largest population of Yehudim who know that Yehuda will carry the scepter. Yehuda will lead the charge for this final exodus. Yehuda is scattered all over the world. But we will witness where the majority of Yehudim are, and we will witness them lead the charge for the final exodus. But they cannot do it without interdependence from the other brothers. Each brother brings characteristics for the building together of Yashar'al. Each brother will be dependent on one another with the different traits and characteristics that they bring. And Yehuda will hold the scepter. And by the power and might of the Almighty Father, Yehuda will lead. Chosen leaders by the Almighty Father will rise up. It says, binding the donkey to the vine, and his donkey's coat to the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his robes in the blood of grapes. You see, my brothers and sisters, a regular vine is enough for a donkey. For a donkey that is mature knows what is expected from its leader. But a young donkey is feisty, requires a stronger vine. And we will see that among Yashar'al, there are those who are feisty, don't understand order yet. He said he washed his garments in wine. Wine is fermented fruit. That means it's mature. It has a different effect. Wine. A little wine for thy stomach's sake is said in one scripture. Look it up. You'll see that it bears witness to what I just said. And his robes in the blood of grapes. Grapes are fruit. When they collapse, you have the blood of grapes. So I say to you, my brothers and sisters, do we not find white robes becoming washed by the blood of the Lamb? As a result of the fruit of the Spirit working in us, we will discern that there was much that Yaakov was prophesying to his children then and for the days ahead. He goes on to say, his eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. My brothers and sisters, his eyes darker than wine, able to see, teeth whiter than milk, knowing what to eat, how to keep his mouth clean. Do we not learn that the Almighty Father is using Yahuah to instruct us in more ways than we can imagine? And he goes on to say, Zebulun dwells at the seashore. He is for a haven for ships, and his borders is unto Zidon. Dwells at the seashore. He is a new haven for ships. Do you not know that the seashore is where water meets land? Literally, the shore is where water meets land. Spiritually, it's where the word of Yahuah meets these earthen vessels. Earthen vessels? Are you not aware that the Almighty Father created us from the dirt, from land? So, Zebulun recognizes when the word of Yahuah meets our earthen vessels, and we learn how to bring these earthen vessels into subjection to the Almighty Father. And ships, a haven for ships, those who carry the word, those who carry the truth, and discern the life and power of set apartness, are like ships when they bring that information to us, physically and literally. Who can discern the message Yahuah is saying regarding Zebulun? You see, in the coming together, each tribe, 12,000 of each tribe bring a different characteristics that together makes for a solid set-apart nation in unity, in love, and set-apartness. Issachar is a strong donkey lying down between two borders. And he saw that a resting place was good and that the land was pleasant. And he inclined his shoulder to bear a burden and become a subject to slave labor. So Issachar, my brothers and sisters, slave labor means Issachar, 12,000 that will give of themselves for Yashar'al. 12,000 that will know when to rest and where to rest. 12,000 that will understand that there will be leadership and different characteristics that complement characteristics that they do not have. Do not disregard Issachar, my brothers and sisters. And we will see that all of these characteristics will work hand in hand in the coming days ahead, my brothers and my sisters. Let me continue with more on Genesis 49th chapter. Let's go to the 16th verse now and to the 28th. I'm going to pause and say thank you for your patience and your eagerness to pursue set apartness and to grow in worship to the Almighty Father. The 16th verse to 28 says, Dan rightly rules his people as one of the tribes of Yashar'al. Dan is a serpent, by the way, an adder by the path that bites the horse's heels so that its rider falls backwards. We will see that in the 7th chapter of Revelation, Dan is not mentioned. If you study and search the scriptures, Dan became an individual who followed after idolatry, and as a result, was removed. That's why there's no mention of Dan in the 7th chapter of Revelation. And it's like the Father said, I waited for your deliverance, O Yahuah. Like I'm praying for Dan. I'm praying and hoping that Dan change. And he goes on to say, Gad, a raiding band raids him, but he raids its heel. Gad, the characteristics of Gad is one who identifies when he's being attacked. But he also discerned how to stop the source. That's why he raids its heel, to stop the source of the motion and the progress of those that attack him and Yashar'al. It say bread from Asher. So Gad recognizes when attacks come and know how to bring it to naught by the wisdom and power of the Almighty Father and by cooperating with his brothers with each characteristics that I've described. Moving on to the 20th verse. I'm still in the 49th chapter. Bread from Asher is rich, and he gives delicacies of a sovereign. Bread. If you search the scriptures, you'll see that it speaks of Yahuah, his word, as the bread of life. Bread. It speaks of a substance that feeds and nourishes. And he said here, not just any bread, it's the delicacies of sovereigns. You see, it didn't say delicacies just to sovereigns. It says it's the delicacies of sovereigns. See, a true sovereign demonstrates wisdom and discipline, knows what clean foods to eat, what not to eat, know what bread is good and what is not, know when leaven is okay and when it's not. And a person who makes sure this is kept in balance are the characteristics of Asher. Asher is rich. Asher will make known and magnify that the currency ahead will be food and water. It will prove to be the rich. Those who have possession of such will be the wealthiest on the planet. And I say, where does endless water come from? Where does the bread of life come from? Literally and spiritually, from the Almighty Father, my brothers and sisters. Let me continue. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He gives words of elegance. Naphtali is one who moves about Yashar'al, providing words that are encouraging for the building up of the 144,000 and the great multitude. We will see these characteristics. We will identify those. They're not warriors. They're not murderers. They're those who recognize words of eloquence and they present it. And there are times when the tribes need to hear the encouraging words, enlightening words. Joseph is an offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree, an offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree by the fountain. His branches run over a wall. Joseph, we will see characteristics of those who understand how and what's necessary to build a set-apart nation. How that in obedience we demonstrate the fruit passed down to Joseph, the fruit passed down to from our forefathers that strengthen us. There's no stopping. And it says the archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. But there's no stopping to the fruit of Yahuah being multiplied over the centuries today and going forward. It say, but his bow remained in strength, and his arm and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty one of Yaakov. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Yashar'al. So Joseph, my brothers and sisters, he let us know that he had an instrument, believe it or not, that can be used to shoot arrows, darts, diverse things can be shot from a bow. And when we read in Revelation about the horseman with a bow without the arrows, here we try, if we yield to the connectivity of this, we'll see that it's letting us know that there's an instrument for firing off the truth. It may not always be an arrow. Pray, O Yashar'al, but he's not afraid to press on and press forward. And he goes on to say, let me read again, but his bow remained in strength, and the arm of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty one of Yaakov. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Yashar'al. and from the Almighty One of your Father, who helps you, and by the Almighty who blesses you with blessings of the heavens from above, blessing of the deep that lies beneath, blessing of the breast and of the womb. The blessing of your father have excelled the blessings of my ancestors up to the limit of the everlasting hills. They are on the head of Joseph and on the crown of the head of him who was separated from his brothers. Benjamin is a wolf that tears in the morning, he eats his prey, and at night he divides his spoil. You see, my brothers and sisters, we will understand the characteristics of Benjamin. It's know when to contribute towards the separation of the things that aren't good versus the things that's good. To identify his prey, it must be something that he wants to eat, wants a part of, or that has a benefit. And they say in the morning he eats his prey. You see, in the morning we're able to see during daylight. We're able to see what that prey can do for us, how it can benefit us, how to consume it, literally and spiritually. And at night he divides the spoil. So as a result of separating and isolating the prey, he shares it. So Benjamin is not a hoarder. Benjamin shares. He divides the prey up. Because things that he can learn from it, others can learn as well. Yashar'al, Yashar'al, I am not fabricating a tale. And then it takes faith and the function of the living spirit of Yahusha to cause you to bear witness to the words I present. And let us move on to the 28th verse. All these are the 12 tribes of Yashar'al, and this is what their father spoke to them. And he blesses them. He blessed each one according to his own blessings. Hear these words and pray on them, my brothers and sisters. For it is my belief that as the 144,000 began to formulate and come together, as the great multitude began to rise up, we will see the characteristics of Yashar'al reflected of what Granddaddy said, so to speak. My brothers and sisters, look for these characteristics in Yashar'al as we soon witness the rise of the 144,000. Many of us will be surprised and shocked of what it takes, but it will come. There are no prophecies that are of Yahuah that will go unfulfilled. Are you ready to lead or follow? Know what must and will be done. The plan of Yahuah will be successful, O Yashar'al. Let us begin to recognize what the refinement, the discipline, the corrections are worth, what they resembles, and not let us try to preserve these erroneous teachings that have infected the body of Yashar'al that will be purged and corrected. Some of us will die sooner than others. Some of us will get sick and get weakened until we get on our knees and cry out, Abba Yahuah, save me, heal me. And some of us will rise up by the power and blood of the Lamb and be stronger than we were in times past. These are realities of what lies ahead, O Yashar'al. Discipline will have its place. Vengeance will and have begun to have its place. Wrath will have its place. Why do you think the tribulation will be so severe? It is to get the attention of the children of Yahuah, to forge closer to one another, to lift up Yahusha by obedience to his living word. Those outside of set apartness have their judgment. It is not our concern what they do. Our concern should be us demonstrating what the Almighty Father wants us to demonstrate, we as the set apart children of Yahuah. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, know what must be done. There are expectations of a final exodus. Some believe it will not occur until the physical return of Yahusha. Bear with me a second. Let them believe as they may. I encourage you to discuss expectations and witness the realities of what's unfolding. Seek to identify your calling, O Yashar'al, your place. Do you exhibit some of the characteristics or one of the characteristics or more of the characteristics of some of the children of Yaakov, Yashar'al? My brothers and sisters, hear these words, for it is my expectation that there will be a final exodus before the physical return of Yahusha. Let me read Proverbs 14:26. It says, "In the fear of Yahuah is strong trust, and the children have a place of refuge." This is important. Fear Yahuah. Trust him. That place of refuge may be to the promised land, or it may be to the bosom of Abraham, a physical death that is also known as a sleep for the set-apart ones. Expectations. I chose Isaiah 43:4-9 because I believe it's something in there that is important for people to recognize as it relates to the final exodus. Isaiah 43:4-9 says, "Since you were precious in my eyes, you have been esteemed, and I have loved you. And I give men in your place and people for your life. Do not fear, for I am with you. I shall bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. I shall say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not keep them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth." Now listen to this verse. Clearly, O Yashar'al, please listen to this verse. "All those who are called by my name, whom I have created, formed, even made for my esteem." There are those for his esteem to fulfill his promise regarding the final exodus. Those are they who will be gathered. He goes on to say, "He shall bring out a blind people who have eyes and deaf ones who have ears." So this is describing that there's going to be some degree of blindness, some degree of not being able to hear. But he's going to bring those who struggle but yearn after him. He's going to bring them to the light. He's going to clear their ears up, our ears up, so that we hear him, so that we're able to discern and see and move as he see fit. It says, "All the nations shall be assembled and the people be gathered. Who among them declares this and show us former events? Let them give their witnesses to be declared right, or let them hear and say it is true." The time of confirming and reaffirming what is to come is now. Yashar'al. Let me continue. There will be leadership and guidance like never before experienced. Many of us will be surprised who will rise up as anointed, chosen leaders from the Almighty Father, demonstrating power. And I'm not just saying charisma and character. I'm saying power. We will witness those who have courage and those who are cowards and those in between. There will be leadership and guidance, and it has begun. Can you truly say that you're receiving the guidance that is expected? Maybe it's time for you to look and seek to discern where the guidance is. Maybe it's time for you to look. The Most High Father, in the name of Yahusha, may be using you as a guide. Pray and watch, O Yashar'al. Know when to stand and when to yield. You see, in the 12 tribes, out of the 12 brothers, 11 brothers, each had talents and skills that was necessary for them to be interdependent upon one another to make up a whole tribe. Then, and in the coming days, there's a reason, O Yashar'al. and working interdependent, it's letting us know that no one child of Yaakov or Yashar'al, no one nation of Yashar'al makes the difference alone. Interdependence. Each characteristic is necessary for the binding together and to make us whole. Members of a set-apart nation, a set-apart family coming together as one. It happens, and it's done intermittently as the Spirit flows in each child, in each tribe, and each individual. We yield, we speak, we listen, we give, we receive, we take, we give. It's an intermittent thing. How do you think that each of us being temples or vessels of the Almighty Father, how do you think we will be as kings and queens if we don't know how to yield when the Father, the Almighty Father who comes to us in the name of Yahusha, our sovereign, our king, when he speaks through you, then all others listen. When he speaks through me, all others listen. When he speaks to Yashar'al through whomever he chooses. So that interdependence is knowing that the Spirit of the Almighty Father that comes to us in Yahusha's name will speak through whomever he chooses. This is why Yaakov prophesied such a magnificent message before his sons. And believe it or not, for those of us who are able to see and receive it for today and the days ahead. Yashar'al, Yashar'al. There will be structure of which we have yet to witness. The final exodus begins to take shape. I believe I am correct, my brothers and sisters. Only the time known as December 21 will prove whether my words are right or not, except the Spirit of Yahuah stir you up and you're able to bear witness and confirm or reaffirm that you believe this will come. Pray and watch, for there are some things that are occurring that will close the scroll of habitable places. I've done a series called The Closing Scroll. I invite you strongly to listen to it. Listen to the words of the closing scroll. All habitable places on this planet will begin to close up, drawing all remaining humanity to the area known as the Middle East region. There will be those who will be among the ranks of the one world government, servants of the false Messiah, the anti-Messiah and false prophet. And there will be those gathered representing the set-apart nation of Yashar'al. Many people believe that the whole world will see things because of cell phone technology. And I submit to you, the breadth and depths of a horizon will be defined where all eyes will witness what is to occur during these final days for Yashar'al and those outside of set apartness. My brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for your patience if you're listening to this whole message. I want you to seek to discern the meaning of the first chapter of Ezekiel. I'm going to read part of it, and I want you to pray on it. Ezekiel, I looked, first chapter 15 through 20 is what I'm going to read. And I looked at the living creatures and saw a wheel on the earth beside each living creature with its four faces. The appearance of the wheels and their works were like the appearance of beryl, and all four had the same form. The appearance of their works was as if it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. When they went in any one of four directions, they did not turn aside when they went. They didn't have to look back. They pressed forward. I'm saying this part, my brothers and sisters. 18th, and their rims were high and awesome, and their rims were covered with eyes all around the four of them. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went beside them. And when the living creatures were lifted up, From the earth the wheels were lifted up. Wherever the Spirit was to go, they went up, because there the Spirit went. And the wheels were lifted together with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. I submit to you, O Yashar'al, hear me clearly. There will be times when we will form circles to guard and protect those that are migrating to the promised land. And when we get to the promised land, the focal point will be the true Mount Sinai, the true mountain of Yahuah. And there will be no need for building a physical wall, for the power and might of the Almighty Father will form a spiritual and powerful hedge around his children. I submit to you, O Yashar'al, as small groups come together with larger groups, and larger groups and larger groups get larger and even larger, till we fulfill the description of a great multitude from many nations, kindreds, and tongues. This will be emulated and will be reflective of a wheel of structure. You see, remember I mentioned Naphtali being as a doe? You see, the warriors protect Naphtali. Each characteristic that I mentioned brings something to the table for the knitting together of a set-apart nation. Ezekiel's wheels is basically saying a wheel within a wheel. That's as we start to migrate. So there are leaders who want to hold on to their followers and say, well, this is my group, my ministry. This will all come to naught. There are leaders that will lead their flock into the migration of the rest of the flock and see that they will pass the baton, so to speak. Order will come in such a way, and all of this will occur sooner than we realize, my brothers and sisters, sooner than we realize. The wheels of Ezekiel were proved to represent formation during movement. When we reach our destinations, we will see how the wheels of Ezekiel. And the messengers were there. If you search the scriptures, you'll see that Lot was led out of Sodom and Gomorrah by the hand of the messengers of Yahuah. So just as there were representation from above to lead Lot out of Sodom and Gomorrah, there will be representation assisting with the gathering of Yashar'al in the days ahead. This is depicted in the first chapter of Ezekiel. My brothers and sisters, remember, there will be messengers leading Lot. There were messengers leading Lot, rather, and his family out of Sodom and Gomorrah. I want to read what I said so you'll know. And just like it says, the Almighty Father changes not. There are times he helped his children to do what is right. Come with me as I gradually come to an end, my brothers and sisters, to the 19th chapter of Genesis, verses 15 through 22. The 19th chapter of Genesis, verses 15 through 22, for it reads, And when morning dawned, the messengers urged Lot to hurry, saying, Get up, take up your wife, your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city. And while he loitered, the men took hold of his hand and his wife's hand and the hands of his 2 daughters, Yahuah having compassion on him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. And it came to be, when they had brought them outside, that he said, Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest you be consumed. And Lot said to them, Oh no, Yahuah, look, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have increased your loving commitment, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I am unable to escape to the mountains, lest calamity overtake me and I die. Look, please, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is small. Please let me escape there. Is it not a small matter? And let my life be saved. And he said to him, Look, I have favored you concerning this matter also, without the overthrowing this city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I am not able to do any deed until you arrive there, so that the name of the city was called Zoar. When he said, I'm not able to do any deed, I believe he's referencing that Zoar may not necessarily be aware of all the blessings of the Almighty Father. So the good deed to Zoar was by him bringing Lot to Zoar. My purpose in reading this is letting you know that just as the Almighty Father used messengers to save Lot and his family, an example was made by his wife not to look back. We're going to have to focus forward and not look back. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al. Choose wisely these coming days. Are you my brother? Are you my sister? Why haven't we communicated with one another? Why don't we communicate? You see the banner saying, prepare to witness Abba Yahuwah's answer. For there's much ahead. Stay tuned, O Yashar'al. Details and processes will become clear to the discerning in obedience. Get involved, Yashar'al, for you are indeed set apart by Yahuwah. Then involvement will come. Let us just be wise and choose wisely how we respond, how we act. On that note, thanks for your patience, your tolerance, and your pursuit of set apartness. I say to you, my brother, my sister, my family, keep your head up, be encouraged, pursue discernment, the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha like never before. You cannot go wrong. Have the right intent, with the intent, number one, to love the Almighty Yahuwah with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And remember, love is doing what's best. Look at all that the Almighty Father has done for Yashar'al. And that's a reflection of love. On that note, I say to you, my brother, my sister, my family, Shalum.